Leave a light on for Britain's Prime Minister. Boris Johnson was moved to the intensive care unit of this South London hospital this evening. A statement from Downing Street calling it a precaution should he require ventilation to aid his recovery. Johnson was diagnosed with COVID-19 last month, delivering video messages from quarantine, calling his symptoms mild and saying he was still in charge. But symptoms persisted.
Alas, I still have one of the symptoms, a minor symptom of I still have a temperature.
He was last seen publicly on Thursday, emerging from number 10 to clap for healthcare workers before returning to isolation. This morning, his Twitter account said he was in good spirits, and at the daily coronavirus briefing late in the afternoon, officials were still insisting it was business as usual, albeit from a hospital bed.
The Prime Minister is in charge, he's leading the government and giving directions as and when required.
Just a few hours later, the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, was again in front of the cameras, looking a little shell-shocked, saying he'd been deputised by the Prime Minister before he went into intensive care.
The focus of the government will continue to be on making sure at the Prime Minister's direction, all the plans for making sure that we can defeat coronavirus and pull the country through this challenge will be taken forward.
But there will be deep concern here tonight over a potential leadership vacuum. Government strategy so far has been ravaged by critics and judged by declining public support. But Boris Johnson is also one of the country's most identifiable figures for fans and critics alike, and the shockwaves from this news will be deep. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Now we have Dr. Taslim Nimji joining us right now, an emergency room physician. And Dr. Nimji, what does being in an ICU mean for someone with symptoms of COVID-19?
So there can be a whole host of reasons why someone would need to go to the ICU. And in general terms, really two of the most common reasons would be either for ventilatory support because someone's on a breathing machine or because someone's needing blood pressure support, for example. So medications that would help to artificially keep someone's blood pressure up because they're not able to do it themselves. So for people with COVID-19, many of the people that are being admitted to intensive care, it is because they need to be on a breathing machine because they're not able to maintain their levels of oxygen in their blood to what's required, and providing masks and things like that we might do in an emergency department just aren't enough. And so we need to move to that next step for ventilation.
And typically, how long could an ICU stay be?
So in general terms, ICU stays can actually be quite long, but when looking at COVID-19 in particular, we are seeing that that people do recover and come off a ventilation machine or a breathing machine, certainly, but mortality is quite high for those on ventilation machines. And really, we're looking at a couple of weeks and not typically long.
Okay. Dr. Nimji, thanks so much for your time.
Sure.